live
We are
from
live.
Annapolis, Maryland, and wherever the heck Quinn is in Ohio, middle of nowhere.
Xenia.
It's Xenia. Don't spell it twice. That doesn't mean anything. Welcome to the Toffee Blues Late Night Live with me, Forrest, and the other person,
Me, Quinn.
Quinn. There we go. So it has been a couple weeks, y'all. We've missed you desperately, but we've both been very busy. Quinn, what have you got going on?
Gosh, I was in Colorado, up in Fort Collins, Colorado, the last week and a half for work / fun / seeing friends. It was great to be in the mountains, beautiful, and I got some serious sun. Now it's starting to turn into a tan, but my face was roasted last week from the
She was a
elevation.
lobster.
I sure was. What about you, Forrest? What have you been up to?
So last week was commissioning week at the United States Naval Academy, where I live and where I work in Annapolis, Maryland. My bar is 50 yards from the entrance to the United States Naval Academy. So it is a very busy week for us. We have the Blue Angels come in on Tuesday. That was pretty cool. I've seen them for a few years in a row now. Last year, I don't know if you've noticed, they have a Blue Angels movie out, and they were filming in our bar for that. I watched half of it today. Don't know if we're going to make it in there because one of the big things for the Blue Angels is not showing them ever with any alcohol ever in their possession. It's just very like clean, family friendly idea they're trying to keep for them. But yeah, so it's the busiest week of the year for us. We broke sales records all over the place. Sold a ton of rum punch because I am not a mixologist, just a guy who makes cocktails for a living. And it was busy. And finally, we're at the end of it. Now the rest of the summer is going to feel like nothing because that week is just crazy. But yeah, our opening question today, Quinn, what's your favorite flavor of ice cream?
I have an answer, and I also have a somewhat divisive response as well.
Bring it on.
I would choose like Italian ice over ice cream every day of the week, or a popsicle.
Oh,
I know,
oh, God.
I know.
Are
So
you
that's my like. That's
allergic
my
to dairy?
no. I just no. That's just my preference. I don't know. I know it's divisive, but if I have to eat ice cream, I have two. A good old chocolate chip cookie dough
Okay.
or mint Oreo ice cream. Both kind of out there flavors, but
Not really.
that is what I'm here for.
What?
A lolly ice.
Chocolate
Yep,
chip
that
cookie
is.
dough is like chocolate chip. Who said lolly ice? Erwin, don't encourage her.
It's great.
It's not. Yes, a lolly ice is what a popsicle is, and it's funny because popsicle is just a brand, but it's become so synonymous with those kinds of frozen treats that it's what we call any bit of frozen flavored ice on a stick. For me, I like my confectionery. I like bits and pieces of my ice cream, so I'm like a Rocky Road guy. I'm like cheesecake with the graham cracker bits in it. The big one for me is like peanut butter, like peanut butter ice cream with like chocolate peanut butter cups in it.
Yeah. Okay. So, are you like a vanilla-based ice cream or a chocolate-based ice
No,
cream?
vanilla base for sure.
Yeah,
I'm really
I totally
personally, I like chocolate a lot, but I really only like dark chocolate. And I'm talking like 70-80%. You know, it's anything less than that, it gets too sweet. Feels like it hurts my stomach. You know.
Oh, you poor thing.
And then dark chocolate's good for digestion too. So if we're talking about the health
Oh
benefits of
yes.
dark chocolate,
Yeah. Sure.
right, cool. Oh yeah, okay. Anyways, Quinn, enough about ice cream. You scream. We all scream because Quinn is awesome. We're gonna just touch real quick, touch on this game that happened. Just a calm like 10, 15 days ago. Arsenal 2, Everton 1 to end the season. Quinn, any thoughts that hasn't already been said?
I mean, that hasn't already been said. No. I mean, we're 10 days out, so we're a little bit behind schedule on the sake of saying anything about the last game of the season. But yeah, I mean, it was nice to go there and not get absolutely demolished. Thought they played pretty well. And I thought it was a handball. That's about all I got. Looked like a handball to me.
Yeah, same here. It's funny that little handball incident. I was playing in a match that previous Sunday, and I had an incident like that where I'm tangling for the ball with this guy, and we head it up in the air. We're looking for it. It comes down. It bounces. I go to get it, and the guy kind of nudges me, and the ball kind of hits me literally right here, like shirt line. Not a handball to me, but everybody's screaming handball, and I pass the ball, and I get it. I take it down. The touch comes off my arm because the guy pushes me, and I hit this beautiful pass with my left foot to a guy out in space, and everybody's screaming at me because it's a handball, and I'm just like, go on and play. And in that moment, I look ahead at that game with Jesus, and I'm kind of like, well, I mean, shoot, he didn't even have anybody on him. He just leaned into it. I was like, oh, I could control that with my arm. And who was it? Was it Michael Oliver? I can't remember. It doesn't matter who it was. It happened. The season's over. We just wanted to touch on it because it's our duty as Americans to be a little late to the party. So,
sure, yeah,
whatever.
Just a little late.
Just a little late. So what we really want to talk about today, there's two things, and this is something that we will probably see a little bit of each week, is some transfer rumors. Because I personally, I just can't get enough of transfer rumors, because I'm going to tell you right now, in American sports, there's no such thing as transfers. You don't really buy players with money. You're trading, and trade rumors and that sort of thing are really like, it either happens or it doesn't, which is kind of the same for transfers, but it's more like a trade rumor comes out like a day before it actually happens. There's not really much speculation. Fans will speculate, but there's no like, oh, the press speculation. Well, they're talking to this guy. It's none of that. It's like, oh, hey, we're going to trade him. And the other team's like, yeah, great. Well, let's alert the press, get a press conference going. And bam, that's it. It's done. Cut and dry.
Mm-hmm.
But transfer rumors are so fun. I love to go on News Now. That's my resource. And I'll just type in Everton. You go to the transfer rumors page, and it's just like article after article. It's like, it's like journalist heaven of just sitting there and be like, oh, we're linked to that guy. Oh, there's 7 articles about Calvin Phillips there. From one, they have like a little flag of where like their origin of the publication is. So like you go, like there's this one player we'll talk about that he was only mentioned in like an Indian publication. So it's kind of like, well, like where is that got any truth to it?
Where'd you get that from?
Well, they picked it up from some source that they have. Regardless, we're going to talk some transfer rumors today. We're going to start off with one that's really near and dear to our hearts because bada bing, bada boom, he's an American. Weston McKennie. He has been linked with us. There's been a few links, and it's not like these real. You all know how. If you don't, then we'll explain it. But the transfer window is a big deal, but it's also full of a bunch of crap. It's just full of so much agent pushing and journalist like coddling, like they're just trying to get these journalists to put these names out there and get interest out there and get people kind of panicking a little bit and generating those clicks. It's such a busy time for journalists to just be existing and trying to do things that are probably pretty unethical as journalists, but we don't hold them up on. Weston McKennie's been mentioned a few times. He is still at Juventus. He had that failed loan spell. People say failed because he didn't make too many appearances and Leeds went down. Excuse me. Nobody heard that. Quinn. Weston McKennie. Thoughts?
Weston. Yeah, I think I was on Twitter earlier, and the first one I saw was Everton are, quote, observing. And I'm like, yes, we're observing. Like we're probably observing hundreds of players. It's like that is clickbait in itself, like you were talking about. It's like, okay, but also the reality of Aston Villa and Newcastle also being linked. In my mind, I'm like, if Weston makes a move to come to England, he's not coming to play for Everton. I don't know. There's no part of me that's like, when you put the 3 out there, I see him going elsewhere. Not that I wouldn't take him or anything. I just don't have confidence that if this rumor turns into him actually coming to England, let alone Everton, but just to England. I think there's other squads that would be more enticing for him to go to over us. But I mean, he could be a help for us, obviously,
Sure.
Yeah, it could definitely be an Onana replacement. I think there's a few of those that are currently being rumored to be tied with us. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm a fan of Weston's game. I think.
Tell me about his game, Quinn.
I just think he's I guess I can't really speak to his club game very much. Can
Sure.
speak more to his national team.
National team, because it's where we know him the best. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I think he is a hard worker. He's got a little bit of an attitude, which could be good in games, like if kept in check, obviously to a certain extent. Yeah, I just am not sure how well he would work with the rest of our center midfielders. I think he could be okay, but
So
I don't know.
if we talk Weston a little bit, he made 34 appearances for Juventus this past season, which, I mean, for a club like Juventus is great. He is obviously a player who plays at a high level and holds himself to a high level. I think maybe one of the things, and I'm gonna kind of point to this where you said, oh, well, there's going to be other squads that would seem more appealing to him. Where the real question I would want to ask of him is, where is his determination lie? Does he want to be guaranteed a starting spot? Does he want to be fighting for a spot? Does he want, where does he see himself in this form of his career? Because what is he? He's 25, right?
He's 25.
He's 25. He's he's playing at good clubs. For most of his career, he's played at fairly good clubs. So it will be a case of what. First of all, if he sees himself having a future at Juventus, if Juventus see him having a future there too, how expendable they see him. It doesn't seem, if he's making that many appearances for Juventus, it doesn't seem like a loan deal is something that's going to be possible. So then we're looking at, well, this becomes a permanent. Now, how much money are we really willing to spend on him? How much money are we going to have to spend on him, regardless of whether Onana goes or not? And then, yeah, does he fit into the squad? Yes, he's a hardworking player. I don't think he's the most technically gifted player in the world. For a player like him, he shines in the U.S. national team because the U.S. national team is one of those teams that's just made up of a lot of workman type players, and then you have the little sprinkle of technical players in there. You're looking at the Pulisic's, the Aaronsons, etc. But I don't know. I don't know and don't watch Italian soccer, so I don't see Weston play at the club level. I watch the American national team when I can, and when Weston plays, he shines. He's a vital piece in that midfield and what he does. Personally, I would rather have somebody like Tyler Adams than Weston McKennie, but at the same time, what we need is more steel in midfield, and we just do need midfield numbers. I think that's the one thing that was really a struggle for us, especially come towards the end of the season when players like Gay aren't always available, when players like Onana even at times weren't available. You're kind of really struggling to make up that midfield a bit, and you're having to move these pieces around. And having somebody like McKennie who can come in and be somebody who's going to be playing at a starting 11 level every week, something we could use. The realities of it, yes, there will be other better teams. Obviously, that name's already thrown out there that will be looking at him, but does he think, well, I'm not, it's going to be tougher for me to get into that squad? Honestly, the main reason that a player doesn't go to a team because he doesn't feel like he can get in the squad is because he feels like his national team place is going to be at risk, right? He's not going to get the appearances he needs. He's not going to be playing the soccer he needs to be able to continue to make the national teams and make tournaments. Weston doesn't have that problem. That guy can play just about anywhere in the world and still make the American national team, just because there's not a lot of other players
we're at right now.
The pool of international capable players in the United States really isn't that high. So there's no real point where he could be like, oh, I don't feel like, if I'm not playing, I'm not going to make the team. That guy could make 10 appearances for Newcastle on loan. He'd still make every U.S. national team. There's not really going to be an issue there, in my opinion, at least. I'd love to see him come. I'd love to see more Americans at Everton. That's always going to be, a positive. But I don't know. It doesn't seem like one that has as much legs, and we'll have to see. These rumors right now are super tenuous, and the only ones that really seem to have any legs to them are ones that involve players that have kind of already been here. But moving on from Weston, we're going to talk about one that's actually makes a lot more sense in terms of what Everton are looking for and what the player's looking for. But Calvin Phillips is a player that had a let's say, I don't want to say disastrous loan spell at West Ham, but he really just did not perform at West Ham. Was making mistakes, was getting sent off. Definitely seems like one of those confidence players, a la Michael Keane, who when it's off for him, it's really off for him. Whether or not Sean Dyche can get the best out of him, Sean Dyche seems like the kind of player or kind of manager who likes to take a player who's low on confidence and kind of bring them in and say, look, we're going to manage you the right way. We're going to, make you feel more comfortable getting on that pitch. You see it in the way he talks in the press about Dele Alli. Kind of see it like to an extent, you see it with the way he dealt with Michael Keane. He kind of said, Keane, I know you're going to get these first few games in the season, but if you mess up, Jared's waiting in the wings to come in. Keane messed up, wasn't playing well. Jared comes in and he never lost his spot. So it seems like Dyche has a way of dealing with players who are low on confidence. I would love to see a guy like Calvin Phillips come in and be able to get to the levels that he had at Leeds when he was doing well. I don't know if that player is quite there anymore, though. I see him having gone to Man City thinking that he was going to light the world on fire, and then getting to Man City and realize, wow, I actually am not anywhere close to these other players. And I think and I don't follow him. I don't follow his news. I don't follow interviews with him, but I would imagine thinking that you're about to go into the squad that wins titles and perform and be there week in, week out, and then realize, wow, I don't really have what it takes to make this team, would really affect your confidence as a player.
Yeah, I think Calvin Phillips is a situation that could be like a Ross Barkley at Luton, where if you get him in the right spot, like you were saying, if Sean Dyche is the right man to lead him, you could get a little bit of a spark back. I wouldn't say that Ross is like the player he was built up to be. Obviously, we've talked about Ross before on this show, but definitely has had somewhat of a rebirth since going to play for Luton. And I think that Calvin Phillips could potentially have that somewhat of like a rebirth or just a little bit of a spark. He's 28, so what is Ross, 30? Like basically around the same situation. I think for me, it's just sad. I think about players who go to City. I think all the way back to like Jack Rodwell, who go to City and then it's like off they fall. And so, yeah, I'm hopeful that that's not the case if this pans out in some way. But that there is a little bit of life that can be breathed back into Calvin Phillips. I think it could be really helpful him at like a decent place mentally with confidence in our squad could be super helpful.
And you would think too that hopefully this style of play might suit him a bit more. It's more akin to the way he played at Leeds, where it isn't quite all this technical possession passing. It's more we're trying to win the ball back and be quick in transition. We're trying to win the ball back and get back defensively where we need to be. You would hope that he sees that and sees that the simplicity of that play is a lot more appealing to him than the overbearing technical aspects that are Pep Guardiola's Man City, where it's so much movement and so much intricate passing and possession, and every player knowing exactly where they need to be at all times in a very, very like intimate and almost like military style way. I'd be happy to see him. It really, as with every transfer we're going to have this window and probably for the foreseeable future, it's going to be a case of how much City are going to be looking for him on loan and whether or not they even really want to let him go on loan again, or if they're looking for a permanent move for him.
Yeah.
It might be one of those things that would like drag on towards the end of the transfer window because they just might be holding out for something else, some more money until they're like, well, we can't just let him sit here and rot. Fine, we'll let him go on loan, deadline day, whatever.
Yeah, because Pep has said he doesn't have a spot for him in the squad.
Exactly.
Like, really.
Yes, exactly.
So it's
and again, another knock to his confidence. Yeah.
Yeah, he's going somewhere. Whether, like you said, I mean, I'm sure City. I could see it going all the way until the final day. Honestly, a player like his of like, all right, no one will pay what we would like to pay, so we'll send him out.
They paid much for him too. I think they paid 35-45 million for him, and the guy's 28 now. He'll be 29 this year. So he only has, especially at that midfield level, he's only going to have maybe another 3 years in him, if that. So you could imagine they're trying to recoup what they can while his value is still somewhat significant, whether it's like 15, 20 million, whatever they feel like they can get back for him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would take him on loan.
I would
all
too.
day.
Yeah,
I would take
I
him on
agree.
loan.
And I think he fits the kind of model of a player that Deitch wants, who's very workmanlike, who gets himself about the pitch, who is English. Just bring it
Yeah,
there.
that's
Guy
true.
loves his English players.
He sure does. He'd have
yeah.
11 out there if he could.
I think there will be a point next season where we have 11 English players on the pitch. And we start with that. It'll happen. It'll be great. Next one, it was a little left field. I only saw a couple of mentions of them, but Arthur Melo, who is at Juventus currently, was on loan at Liverpool for a season and made very, very few appearances. He's a Brazilian. I think he's like 31 right now. I'll have to double check that, but he's on the back end of his career. He didn't really. He went on loan to Liverpool, trying to reignite his career. Didn't really. He's only 27. Okay, all right, a little bit younger than I thought. He's a defensive midfielder. Didn't really make a lot of appearances at all for Juventus.
He's been playing for Fiorentina.
Thank you. He plays. He was on loan in Fiorentina. Lovely.
Yep.
Hold up a second. I should have had this ready. Doesn't matter. We don't need to look at the data because the point is, I mean, look, if he didn't make the grade at Liverpool in the Premier League, what's the point in us trying to bring him here and try to get him to play again? It's just kind of like whatever. Like, just like, I appreciate the link. I can understand it. We're getting linked to a lot of midfielders because Onana is probably leaving within the next month, which is necessary. And if we want to keep other players, somebody's got to go. And he's like, to me, it's like a no-brainer who goes. It would be Onana in terms of what they bring to the squad and what their value is. It's Onana. I don't know if you have any real thoughts about Arthur. It's he's a player that, again, we didn't really get to see a lot of. I don't watch night football, so I don't get to see Fiorentina play.
Yeah, no, I don't. I was reading up on him a little bit before we jumped on here, and I just wrote on this piece of paper, not a huge get. Is he made of glass? Also, I mean, he stuck it out, but I mean, that's why he didn't play at Liverpool.
Exactly. Yes, he was hurt all the time. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what we don't need is more players.
That are going to come and sit.
Right, exactly, and get hurt and not be available for us. There's just no point in that. And that link was just one. I thought it's a name that we've seen before. He's played for a rival club. I thought it'd be a little interesting to talk about. I don't really much like that. So we'll move on from Arthur to one that is really just going to happen. Jack Harrison. Welcome back to Everton. I'm already just announcing it now. Jack Harrison bound for Everton.
His mom will be so happy.
Yeah, exactly. And then my good friend Roger, who is a big Wake Forest soccer fan and knew Jack during his time at Wake Forest, will be very happy to see him back at Everton as well. I think what's really worked out for us is that Leeds didn't win promotion, so now they're kind of like, shoot, like we didn't win promotion. Now we've got all these players who are not going to. You're looking at Nyanto, you're looking at Somerville, Jack Harrison. I'm sure there's a couple other players in the squad. I don't know it well enough. Who are like, well, now like you said we were going to come up. We didn't come up. We don't get to play Premier League football. We want to move now. Like, we gave you that season. Jack Harrison on loan is perfect. It's perfect. It just fits us perfectly. It does us so good in terms of the revenue we save, the money we save, the wages, everything that's going to go into Jack Harrison coming back on loan is perfect. Happy to have him back. When are you?
Yep. I wrote on this piece of paper, Jack Harrison. Yep. Probable. See you soon.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Happy to have him back. And hopefully we go back to Leeds for somebody like Nyanto or Somerville.
Yeah.
I think
it's a good one to have on the bench to bring off. He's a great one to have in your back pocket.
That's what I really like about Jack Harrison. I think he really excels as an impact player. Obviously, his best performances this season came when he was starting because he had more opportunities on the ball. But for me, I've seen him come on that pitch and really just be that driving force. He's so direct with the ball. He wants it. And yes, he has a good left foot. I would love to see him play in the left and be able to be more natural as a winger in that position. But he just seems to favor cutting in and just floating these crosses in. So, more of that next season from Jack Harrison. Happy to have him back. Next is a guy. It's funny. I saw this name this morning and then I saw it again later as being like nixed. But Maxime Esteve is a center back for Burnley. This morning we were monitoring him, whatever, observing, monitoring, checking his pH
We're
levels,
just
whatever
watching.
it is. Right. Like we're sitting there and watching this guy go about his daily life, thinking, yeah, we could probably sign him. It's funny because then later on, from this is how the transfer window works. You get rumors in the day, you get rumors at night, and the rumors in the day, oh, we're monitoring the situation with Max Masteve, and then 12 hours later, Everton have no interest in Max Masteve. I don't even know why you thought that, you idiot. Like that's like how it feels. It's like you get your hopes up, and you watch some YouTube highlights, somebody thinking that you're going to get something out of them. It's like, not much, nothing there. But it does speak to maybe there's this idea that we're looking for center back depth, which means that maybe somebody like Michael Keane might be on the way out. Not Branthwaite. I'm growing increasingly confident by the day that Branthwaite will not leave this window.
Hey, I would love for you to be right. I
really, like 2 weeks ago, I was like, man, he's like, I don't want to see him go, and I know he'll go for a lot of money, but he's gone. The more I'm seeing about the situation, the more that clubs like Man United kind of embarrass themselves in the press talking about him and trying to unsettle him, the more I'm like, oh yeah, there's not a good club for him right now. Especially because the guy's ability extends way past where Manchester United are right now, extends way past where Chelsea are right now. I mean, I would even go so far as to say it kind of extends past where Arsenal are right now. That guy is meant for superstardom. That guy is meant for Manchester City. He's meant for Real Madrid. He's meant to be like a real top 5 defender in the world. He's not there yet, but the guy's damn good. He sticks out so much in this team, in his confidence and the way he goes about his game. He's meant for much more than Europa League with Manchester United and the drama that goes along with that.
Yeah, hopefully, going to United wouldn't be the place I'd head to right now.
Hopefully, yeah. Anyways, next
who
name.
was it? Oh, never mind.
No, tell me.
I was going to say who. I was trying to think. I don't know if it was Leon Osman or who it was who talked about it, but it was like maybe it was Wayne Rooney. I don't know. That's what I was just trying to look for. But someone on an interview was like, "Why wouldn't you stay another year? Just why wouldn't you? You're guaranteed playing time. Like
you're in the preliminary squad for the Euros. Like that was the big thing for me and our mutual friend Danny. I've talked to him about this and it was kind of like, look, like it's like the Pickford situation. It's like, dude, as a defender, your role is far more different than as an attacker. Your role is to stop goals coming in. And what better place to do that than in a team that's kind of just like a defensive setup? You're sitting there, you're learning the tricks of your trade in a way where you're going to be constantly navigating that. You're starting every week. You barely have to fight for your position, which isn't really a good thing when you think about it. But at the same time, we just don't have the quality center back depth for him to even have somebody to fight against. And then not only that, you're getting the international recognition you deserve because you're playing so much, because you're showcasing your defensive ability week in, week out. You are getting that opportunity to now, like, he deserves to make the Euro squad. I mean, there's not a world in my mind where Harry Maguire goes to the Euros and Jared Branthwaite doesn't. I don't mean that. I don't want to slight players, but when you're looking at form, when you're looking at the amount of games played, why would you not take the young guy and give him an opportunity to prove yourself over the guy that is like, yeah, he's been with the squad setup and he's good friends with everybody, but at some point you've got to bite the bullet and say, we need to change if we want to really move forward, because you can't keep doing the same thing over and over. You can get to the semifinal again, but what, are you going to win the final? Like you have to do something different.
Totally. Also, it was Connor Cody. That is correct. That's who it was.
Connor Cody, man.
Yeah, me too.
I do like Connor Cody. I won't lie. I was a little sad to not see us sign him permanently, but I think the one season loan was perfect. It worked out well.
Yeah, I do love him.
Yes. So the next name, John Nicholas Best. It's a German player. This is the one that I found on
the Indian site.
Inside, yes. I really don't know. He had a decent season.
Yeah, I don't know squat about him. I looked him up and I was like, I don't know this guy at all.
John Nicholas
He's part of the Dortmund Academy. And he's 25 years old. That's about all I really got to dig in.
It's just a name I wanted to throw out there that was left field. Just to kind of,
for you.
He looks freaking like not a footballer. If you go to Transfer Market,
that's true.
he looks like he should be like selling you like CBD supplements or something. But regardless, um, that's John Nicholas Best. I don't think it's anything that has any real weight to it. But it's nice to have fun. This is what you're supposed to do. This part of the window is have fun and speculate. That's the real roundup of any real targets that I've seen that had any sort of weight to them. After that, we're just talking new contracts. I saw there was an article today about Dominic Calvert-Lewin, us working on a new contract for him to try to ward off some interest from Newcastle. And they were talking about, well, apparently he's on like 87,000 a week right now, and what could we really offer to up that wage? Does Dominic sign a new contract for us?
Well, I said this 2 weeks ago that I thought he would leave. Just had a gut feeling that he would leave.
Yeah.
I'm starting to come around that maybe he won't, but I'm still on the edge of like, I don't know. I go back and forth. Yeah, how much more money can we offer him?
I'm sure
Are we
he
going to
does.
send somebody else? You know.
I mean, we would. There's, I mean, I don't know, unless he has a grand plan for Yusuf. Who's Yusuf? Who is it? What's his last name? Who? Chermiti. I mean, you saw Chermiti come in and have a couple of decent performances at the end of the season, have some nice touches. Whether or not he's ready to really lead the Premier League team's line, probably not. He's not quite physical like Dominic Calvert-Lewin is. I never really felt like Calvert-Lewin was going to leave. These links with Newcastle made sense in terms of like, oh, it's an opportunity for him to step up and play more European football. But then he's not going to be guaranteed to start every week. He's not going to be playing for the best fans in the league because, let's face it, Newcastle supporters, come on. I've been to see us play Newcastle Goodison a couple of times. Nah, they're nothing special.
Nah.
And really, I think Dominic is another one of those players that's really taken on the ethos of Everton in terms of what it means to play for the club, what it means to pull on the shirt and represent a club, represent a city, which, you know, obviously Liverpool's a split city, but still to represent people that are so passionate about the club. I would be really sad if he left personally, because I do think that I hope that he's put the worst of these injuries behind him.
Yeah.
And that he has a spell of a couple of years where he's going to play virtually injury free, and you're going to see the Calvert-Lewin we saw with Ancelotti. And I think we've seen it over the last 10 to 15 games of last season, where he was really he was getting in the air. One of the things that is so impressive about Calvert-Lewin is his leap. The guy can jump
He's good hops.
He can jump crazy high. The guy can probably touch the top of the backboard of a basketball hoop. Like, he's like really crazy. Yeah. Like, he times them really well for the most part. He's just unfortunately he's just not the best header of the ball all the time. Regardless, he has that physical side of him that he's starting to learn to trust his body with again, and start to allow himself to do these superhuman feats of strength and agility on the pitch. If he can continue to do that and stay injury free, he's going to become a striker that can score 15, 20 goals a season for us. And if he does that, then that's what we need. That's exactly what we're missing. And if he can come and do that next season, I would not see why he would want to leave first.
I mean, I would love for him to stay. I I really like him. I just think, and I do think he gets the club. I think he said that it's an honor to have the pressure to be Everton's number 9, and I totally I think he means that. I don't think that's just like a statement for the press or to get fans behind him. However, I do think that he is still the kind of person that might leave if the right offer comes along. I don't think he's I'm going to stick around till like my career's over. I think if the right opportunity comes where he could play in Europe, where he's guaranteed minutes and Europe, I think he's gone. But I would love for him to stick around. I really like him. I think he's starting to become a leader as well when he's fit. And I love that. And when he's confident, I think it's contagious in the team. And so,
I agree.
Yeah, I would love.
He just works so hard. It all comes back to him being fit, and you can see the two sides of Dominic Calvert-Lewin. You can see the injury-plagued, incompetent, untrusting of his body, Calvert-Lewin, and then you can see the injury-free, competent, willing to throw himself through brick walls for Everton to Calvert-Lewin. And the differences are night and day, but that day part where he is so confident and so strong, I mean, he really can lead. He's one of those strikers that can lead the line on his own.
Yeah.
That can sit up there by himself with two center backs on him and still win the ball and still win the flick on and still bring in somebody else into play. I mean, he's really valuable as an asset for the team. I would hate to see him go. I would love to see him sign a new contract too. But yes, I agree that he is a player that could be tempted with a move if the right team came in for him. I don't know if the right team will, and I hope to God that they don't, honestly. But he has and as Irvin Koeman has said here, he has every opportunity to stay at Everton and become our top Premier League scorer. Like he has that opportunity to do that, and I'd love to see him do it. I think we've already talked about the next two new contracts, Young and Coleman. Any changes? I think it seems like the rumors have been that Young will sign a new contract, that he's going to stick around at Everton for another year, which is great for him.
Great for him.
And that's a great question. If we just go right back to Urban real quick, can we replace DCL properly for the fee we would get off anybody? No, I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
I mean, unless we have a young striker in mind who's relatively unknown, I agree. That nobody, I mean, and unless we're trying to go crazy and bring back Lukaku or something, I agree. For what we would get, which is probably 25 to 35 million, it would be really tough to see somebody coming in and having that same sort of physical output. And again, the physical output is what makes him so valuable, because we're not a team where the striker is scoring the goals for the most part. We're a team where the striker is bringing other players into play and trying to help get the ball up the pitch for a winger or for an attacking midfielder to really get the goal. Yeah. So yes, Young seems like a new contract. Coleman, any gut feelings about that? I think he signs. I
still think he signs too. Yeah, my thoughts don't change. I think there's enough outside of just football that keeps him around for a year.
Well, that was our transfer room roundup. It was pretty cool, pretty fun. I will try to find a lot more for next time, and I'm sure we'll have a lot more to talk about next time. Maybe we'll even have a signing, Jack Harrison. Who knows? But today's real topic that we're getting to 37 minutes in is John Texter's rootin' tootin' Toffees.
Look at you with your little what's the word, alliteration today. Yeah,
it's funny because John Texter is from Connecticut. He's from the Northeast. He's not from Texas, so none of this has anything to do. It's just the fact that his name. Everyone just call him Tex, honestly. But you've all seen it. You all know. We know. Oh, you muted yourself because you're drinking. I was like, where did she go? Okay.
I sure did. Sorry, I was taking a drink. Nobody needs to hear me drink.
Yeah, Michael, I understand what you say, that we messed up with Sims, not really giving him a chance, but I think the reason we sold him was to comply with financial fair play and the fact that he was an academy product. So all that was pure profit. Yes, it would be great to have seen him stick around, but I think, we had to sell him to be able to make that product. Obviously, then we went and signed Beto, but I think the reason we got Beto was because we didn't really have to spend any money on him right away. So none of that counted against us for the profit and sustainability rules. But yes, I always will prefer to see an academy player stick around, always 100% of the time. The thrill of a chancer is great. The hope that a new player brings in is great, but an academy product is just something special, and it's sad that it just doesn't happen more often than it does. But coming through an academy and getting into the first team and being that consistent is just such a tough thing to do in the Premier League. But we're here right now to talk about John Texter, American billionaire who is a 40% shareholder in Crystal Palace. He's not a controlling share. What I really did before this was do a decent amount of research on John Texter, who he is in business, and who he is as a person. So a lot of this I took from his website, and then kind of did my own research based on the things they were saying. So John Texter, just to round him out as a businessman, as a person, he's a major shareholder at Crystal Palace, and then he's the controlling owner through his football umbrella corporation. I don't know what you really call it, controlling management operation, Eagle Football, which that name will have to change if he ends up selling Crystal Palace. Come on now, Eagle Football. That's like, my dad owned like a construction company and then changed its name. It's called Eagle Home Improvement. Come on, guys, we're playing up the thing here, y'all. Anyways, he's a controlling stake at Lyon, Botafogo, which is in Brazil, and then a second division, now first division Belgian team called Royal White Daring Molenbeek. That is what the RWD stands for in RWD Molenbeek. He's also the founder of Academy FC Florida, which is a professional pathway academy in Florida, just probably a couple hours north of Miami. That academy has quite a few players that have made it to professional football in Belgium and Brazil with these teams that are linked with Eagle Football. He's the former executive chairman of Fubo TV. If you do not know what Fubo TV is, it is a major streaming service for live TV, especially live sports. I've used their free trial a couple times to watch major sporting events. Never pay for it because it's kind of crazy expensive, and I just don't watch TV like that. He's also the former head of studio and CEO of FaceBank, and that actually kind of gets into what his real background is, which is virtual reality and like facial recognition software, like facial animation software. You would think like filters on Snapchat, but in a much deeper sense. Really, if you want to call it something that has a bit more of like a modern terminology, you see deep fakes. He doesn't, I'm hesitant to use that word in terms of like he doesn't operate with deep fakes and trying to confuse people, but that's the idea. What he's done as a background has been somebody who's worked in and been a real player and like starter of the virtual reality sphere in terms of taking celebrity likenesses and being able to. He's a guy who's done like the hologram concerts with dead celebrities, right? So Tupac and Michael Jackson, and I said Tupac and Michael Jackson. And other celebrities where he's done these like hologram shows, right? He was a big proponent of that. He's known as like Hollywood's virtual reality guru, right? So it's a guy who takes these celebrity likenesses and finds a way to monetize them, basically. So what he really is he is a big revenue guy. He's a revenue generator, and especially at the clubs that he's owned. So when you go to Eagle Football's website, and you go and you look at their spotlight page, and you look at, and there's 3 clubs that they have spotlighted. They have Botafogo, Lyon, and RWD Molenbeek, right? And they're talking about the increase, and the main thing they're talking about in their spotlight is the increase in revenue. So at Botafogo, since they took a controlling stake in, I believe it was 2022, they've had a 225% increase in revenue. That has come from revenue growth and spearheading accountability. Is really what he's done, and this is kind of seems to be a what's the word, like a real common thing that has, not the word I want to use, but a real common thing that happens in South American football and Latin American football is that there's not always the most modern processes in place at a lot of clubs. A lot of these clubs live in an era where they just don't have the same levels of performance or performance indicators that they're looking for. And so what he did at Botafogo was he took this Division II Brazilian side, brought them to Division I, and got them their best finish in the Brazilian league in like 30 something years or something. They finished 5th this past season. But he did that with he introduced something called the Botafogo Way, which is a training program for players to improve their actual playing ability. He did full restructuring of their back office and implemented, modern practices in terms of like management, upgraded the facilities and creating unique match day fan experiences. And just really, and the most famous thing, with John Textor, and I say most famous thing, but the one that we all latched onto when it came out that, he did this article with The Athletic about owning Everton, was this video of him shouting about corruption and referees. And that really struck a chord with all of us because we all shout about corruption and referees with the Premier League. He is somebody that is very outspoken, somebody that is been in the game in terms of being a businessman and a money man for a long time. And he's only just recently got into football. What he's done at Lyon is very similar, restructuring their board from 17 to 12 members. And by the way, 17 members on a board is crazy.
That's a ton of people.
Why do you need that many voices? Even 12 is crazy.
It's a lot of cooks in the kitchen.
Exactly. Way too many. There's no space to move. He built a new arena at Lyon. He reduced the club's discretionary overhead spending costs. And discretionary overhead spending is like food. It's like it's things that a business or a person doesn't need that they spend money on, and if they stop spending money on it, that food's kind of like, it's not just food, but like going out and eating, that sort of thing, rather than cooking at home.
Mhm.
He's increased the revenue this in the quarter one of this year from 101 million to 227.5 million. He's increased their earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization from minus 10 million to 31 million. And he's refinanced their debt. That's the one thing. And in RWD Molenbeek, he's done a bunch of things. He's new pitch and sporting upgrades. He's really taken that club from a small club and tried to make them quite a bit bigger. But what his biggest thing that he's done in all these clubs is really boosting their revenue and decreasing their debt, refinancing their debt, restructuring their debt, however you want to look at it. So with all that being said, first of all, Quinn, do you have anything to add? Anything to say?
Oh, honestly, you crushed it. There's a few other things that I read about him, but that are not as important.
No, they're still important because we're learning about him as a person.
I mean, he was like the owner of the Sims, which is like the second most popular or like second biggest like snowboarding, skateboarding brand. Was also super involved in like the winter sport, just like world, which is just interesting to me. And has like partnered with like the Lululemon.
The guy has
stuff.
The guy,
huge connections.
The guy has connections. He's not like 777 BS. Like, oh, we're here, we own these clubs. It's not. He doesn't go around and false promise people. The guy comes and he delivers. That's what I'm seeing with him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Irvin. You say I've done my research. Really, I just went to a couple websites that the guy probably has made and just read what he said. These are all the positive talking points from him, right? And when you go and you try to search for negatives, it's really hard to just find negatives on the internet about rich people because they try to get those buried. So what you have to do when you try to find negatives, you have to try to talk to people. Have not had the chance to do that yet, but you're in luck because tomorrow, I believe Toffee TV is releasing an interview, a discussion with HLTCO, the big Crystal Palace fan account, where they're going to be talking about Texter. And I kind of even allude to that a little bit because when you look at what he's done at Crystal Palace, right, he hasn't been able to do anything because he didn't have a controlling stake. He's just an investor. He's their biggest investor, but he's just an investor. From the couple of articles I found about Texter's time at Palace, he's kind of had a rough go of it. He's seems like he's fallen out with their controlling director Steve Parrish over his purchase of Lyon. It seems like Steve Parrish wasn't exactly happy with that, and the Guardian article was a little obtuse about why that was. But in that article, they also had a photo of a banner that the Palace fans had put up saying, talking about John Texter and how they were not supportive of him because he wanted to take his this umbrella corporation, Eagle Football, onto the American stock market and float it on the stock market to bring in more investors, to bring in more money, investment, basically. And they see that as gambling with their football club because he's not a majority owner, but he's a major stakeholder in the football club. So they're saying, oh, so you're just trying to leverage the fact that you own these clubs to be able to bring in more money for this investment group that you have. They had a problem with that. I don't know the ins and outs of that. I'm looking forward to seeing the discussion with HLTCO tomorrow about how they really feel about him. There was another article where and it was just from March this year, where he's on record being very against financial fair play. There's a quote that said, "It's clear that the rules are built to make sure that clubs which do not drive significant revenues cannot catch up." And there's that word again, revenue. The guy is a revenue monster. He wants to come in and boost the club's ability to make revenue as much as possible. Here, Quinn, I'm going to let you talk first before I get into that.
No, it's okay. You're in the middle of a thought. Continue.
Yeah. So here's the thing with revenue, right? That word is money, right? Revenue is the money you're bringing in. It's what you're selling. It's what people are paying you. Revenue for football clubs typically comes from three different things. Let's say three. Player sales, of course, you bring players in, you develop them, you sell them for a higher fee than you paid for them. Or you buy a player, he performs well towards the end of his career, you get his wages off the book, and you get a nominal fee for him because he performed so well for you. The performances and the pedigree that he gave you is worth more than the money. Match day sales, so merchandise match day sales, so ticketing, refreshments at the concourses, match day programs, people buying jerseys and scarves, etc. on the day. And then sponsorships. Sponsorships are a huge revenue generator for clubs. You can look at clubs like Chelsea and Manchester United and Liverpool and Arsenal, who get these crazy hundreds of millions of pound sponsorship deals that clubs like us really can't even touch, because we just do not have that global footprint that the other clubs have. So everywhere that he's gone, he has improved sponsorships. Everywhere he's gone, he's improved sponsorships. At Botafogo, at Lyon, at RW. I can't even pronounce that last name. What is it? RW Molenbeek. I won't forget it. RW Molenbeek. He has gone and he has sought out better sponsorships to bring in more revenue. That is encouraging. One of the worries when it comes to increasing revenue is he going to start increasing costs for the fan? In this day and age, and if you look, there's been quite a number of teams. Just about every team in the league has upped their season ticket costs, but there's a number of teams that have upped them significantly. You're looking at Arsenal, and you're looking at Wolverhampton. Those are the two major. What's the word? Those are the two clubs that have gotten the most stick for the most blowback. And Wolverhampton, especially, they've upped their season ticket costs like a ridiculous amount. And I'm pretty close to Wolves fans right now because they're coming over to Annapolis soon, and there's a bunch of stuff. Doesn't matter. Regardless, I'm seeing this Wolves content now because I'm starting to follow some of their content creators and some of their American fans. And it is crazy the amount of money that they are charging these fans. And now the worry becomes, is this guy to come in and start charging the fans more because he needs to drive these revenues up to be able to increase the revenue, to be able to spend more money, to be able to have a better product on the pitch. That is where I think he has the issue with financial fair play, because he's saying, well, I can't, these clubs cannot continue to charge their fans more and more and more to generate more revenue, to be able to spend more money on more players. They can't do it because then no fan's going to be able to afford to come to the game. I'm very intimately aware of the situation that British people are in right now. Your country is in crisis. Your government's in crisis. You don't have the jobs. You don't have the ability to be able to spend more money. And yet continuously these clubs continue to charge you more money for things. So where does that end? And you see a guy who comes in and is a revenue monster and wants to make more money for the club to boost revenues. The fear becomes, is he going to do this to pass those costs on to fans? So what it really brings us to our real question: is he a good fit for Everton? And I would love to know what you think.
Yeah, overall, I mean, he's a way better fit than 777. I mean,
sure,
hello. Yeah, I think I like what I see. There are definitely, I don't know, it's hard to have hesitations when there's two options on the table and one is so much worse than the other, Yep. I was just reading up on some of the stuff, like with Crystal Palace. What would just suck is if he shows up, and becomes like the driver of the ship and does things like increase cost for fans, increases some of those things to drive up revenue.
And you have to really ask, like, how much is that going to really generate?
Yeah, sure.
Like, how much does the match day fan experience really generate revenue? I think for him, what he's going to get and what he's going to be looking at with Everton is the fact that a lot of the work that he would have had to do to be able to find ways to boost revenue has kind of been done for him. This stadium is being built. The groundwork and foundation is being laid for a future for this club. So now he needs to come in, and it's just like, for him, it's like, well, the main thing that is holding this club back right now is debt.
Yeah.
It's debt. We are very heavily in debt, and most of it's just with the stadium. Most of it, like, there's some for players, I'm sure, too, but most of it's just the stadium. And that's where our creditors really lie, is his stadium debt. But you look at Textor and his history, he's not a guy who's afraid to take on some debt. And I think even in the Athletic article, in the articles that came over after is that he's even said like it was even alluded to the fact that we'd be happy to take on that debt, to take on the deal with those creditors. He seems like somebody who's not afraid of dealing with that. What I really like about John Textor, I don't know him that well. I'm going to continue to look into him, and I'm going to continue to monitor what he says and what he does. But I like his passion. I like he it's very easy to get into the hearts of Evertonians sometimes if you're just like, if you're an outsider, you're just like, oh, Everton's great. Everyone's going to be like, oh, I love that guy. Like, yeah, like Toffee. Like, just all you have to do is say nice things about Everton. And we typically are kind of like, okay, yeah, we'll deal with you. We like you. But, he's a passionate guy. He's outspoken. It's what we need, because what we had with Kinwright, he was fairly passionate. He was fairly outspoken, but he didn't have the muscle that financially or I don't want to say like mentally, but he didn't have the muscle really financially to be able to back up the passion that he had for Everton. And for him, owning Everton was like this figurehead thing. Like, well, I own this club that I love, and it makes me so happy. And it's great that it made him happy. But at the end of the day, he didn't have that true knowledge or backing to be able to take the club where he wanted it to be. And in his mind's eye, he probably thought he could. John Textor has that. And he has that passion. And you can tell that guy is willing to sell his Crystal Palace shares because he wants a controlling stake in an English team. And he wants a controlling stake in a team that has some history behind it. He obviously does. The guy alluded to our history and how great it would be to take a team like that up. I don't know. This could all fall apart tomorrow. We could have this whole discussion right now, and then tomorrow it's going to be said, yeah, Textor's not interested anymore. It's like, oh, well, what would we even talk about all this for? But this is the point. When we're looking at potential owners, we need, and especially because they're going to be like right now, it seems like it's just Americans that are really interested in us right now, because maybe they think there's a quick buck to be made, maybe because they have this passion for the romance of football still. I don't know. That doesn't seem like to be a thing anymore. But there's so much that can really just go wrong for this club right now if the wrong person comes in and tries to sweep us off our feet. That we're going to have to do our due diligence as fans and sound out these owners on our own. Obviously at the end of the day, we're not going to have any sort of say. Even if we protest, we're not going to really have any sort of say in what happens with a potential owner. But we really have to do our due diligence. And we, as fans who promote and podcast and do these things for you, we have to do our due diligence to give you that information. There's a lot more that can be said about John Textor and a lot more that we're going to look into. For me, he seems like a good option right now. I would love for him to be an option that works out for us. And I'd love to see somebody outspoken and passionate be our owner, because for so long, we had somebody who was almost like a shadow as our owner, who would make appearances at matches, but it was just like, do you remember when he appeared, he did a phone in on TalkSport or something, and it was not him, it was somebody pretending to be him? How crazy was that? We've just had these weird moments with him. And yes, the one thing, when this stadium gets done, that will be something that Farhad Moshiri can hold a candle to and say, yes, I did that for that club. It's a great thing. I hold my hands up. Of all the on the pitch problems, all the things that he's done where he's not really let the football club operate as a football club, that stadium has been a good thing. It is really what is Everton's future right now. And it will be the only crown jewel that he really has when he ends up selling this club. But what needs to happen next is somebody who's willing to now buckle down and say, let's get this club into this stadium. Let's get rocking and rolling. Let's make something happen. Let's get into European football. Let's win something, win trophies, and just find a way to take Everton from the doldrums of obscurity, from the freaking race of relegation that we're always in, and step away and just be able to give us some hope and something to live by again. And I know I'm dominating this conversation right now, but gosh darn, I just love Everton. I just love the Toffees. Up the Toffees. Let's go Blues. Quinn, you have 48 seconds.
Great. I just would say I'm really intrigued to hear the interview, because I think I'm curious what all led to the decision of it's not a good fit, outside of just not having the ability to make decisions, some of those intricate things. Like I said, I would obviously take him over the other options at the moment, but he does seem, from just some of the things, he's very confident and passionate, but it's where's the line of where you're like egotistical? I don't know. I don't know him well enough. I haven't done enough research. You've done way more than me. But in what I've read, I'm like, is there a little too much pride of I've done this, this, and this in the past? And so whatever I say is gold here. Yeah. And so I think that's just something that I'm curious to hear from, Crystal Palace supporters and people who are close to the club of, where is that like ego? Because he has been really successful in a lot of the things that he's done. And so it's like, do you believe that everything you touch is gold to a fault? Or are you willing to say, like, that's what I hope this will be, and I'm going to do all I can to do it? And obviously that's what we want. We want it to turn to gold if he's going to buy Everton and whatnot. But even some of the statements of like, the money to buy all these places came entirely out of my checking account. Like, okay, like it's like sick. That's amazing, man. Like you got a rocking checking account. So I think that's something that I'm just curious, not making any assumptions, but would love to hear more of, hey, how's this guy perceived by Palace fans? Of he's not obviously the decision maker, big investor, and how have some of those like tussles that maybe Palace fans are more aware of, how has he come across in those things? I'm just curious to know that. But yeah, I think he's like I said when we started, the best option of the two options. I'm like, yeah, I'll take him if that's all there is. But yeah, I think that that's the only thing that I'm like somewhat weary about with like the little that I've read.
Well, and I can kind of have some personal experience with that. So the NFL team that I like, this Carolina Panthers, they are owned by a guy named John Tepper, and that guy, he doesn't know what he's doing. I look, like he just doesn't make good football decisions. He doesn't make good sporting decisions. Yes, he might make good business decisions, but it's like the same thing you see with like Mashiri. Like the guy is not a sports person. He should be the guy who's putting other sports people in place to let them make the decisions. He's got the money. Be the guy who has the money and put the right people in place. You don't want to be the owner who's trying to do everything and push all the right buttons and then screwing up. And now everybody's at your door screaming at you. It's like, come on, like just put the right people in place. And that's that's the hope I have for John Textor. And looking at what he's done with these other clubs, I think that's what he's doing. I would see him as a much more of a best case scenario than I just hope I hope he does well. I see him as somebody who could do the right thing. Whether he's the owner that takes us to the heights that we all aspire to be as Evertonians, I don't know. But at the end of the day, the guy I think would do well for us. I think he's the kind of outspoken, personable leader that we're looking for right now as a club. I think he's a savvy businessman that we need as a club too. And the next step just becomes, what is on? Oh my gosh, I'm getting like crazy notifications from work. Anyways, so enough about John Textor, because we talked a lot about him, and there's just going to be more, I'm sure, that comes out about this whole situation that we're going to talk about. We're going to move on to our final topic of the night. It's not going to be a long one because we've run this podcast on pretty long tonight. But what Everton players would make it into a Premier League Hall of Fame? And I'm gonna sit here and specify this. When I say a Premier League Hall of Fame, I mean a Premier League, not an Everton Hall of Fame, but a Premier League Hall of Fame. Quinn, do you have any thoughts?
I think, humbly, the list is probably small, if I'm honest, when you think about what it takes to get in. Not that there aren't players who deserve to be there. I mean, there's names that have been tossed around in our, like when we were talking pre-show, but I think right now, I think Jordan Pickford, based on statistics, like when you actually look at his stats and his saves and whatnot, could potentially be someone at some point who makes it. Even though there's lots of people that don't think he's great, I think that this season specifically has proven he's been in a lot of people's team of the season. Like he has been the goalkeeper of a lot of people's team of the season. which I think it's like finally, you know, um, with the amount of saves that he makes and his clean sheets when we're not at the top of, yes, we have a solid center back pairing right now and whatnot, but I think Jordan Pickford is one that I could see at some stage being on a ballot years down the road.
Well, it's Leighton Baines, anyways. It's Leighton Baines. The guy is, but he's still like the leader in assist by a defensive player, right? Has Andy Robertson taken that from him yet? I don't know. Regardless, it's Leighton Baines. The guy is just about the best left back in Premier League history. Great player. I'm glad that you're looking that up right now, Quinn. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
But then after that, who else? I don't know. It's hard. I mean, you could see like Tim McCahill. I love the guy. I don't know. Maybe it's like when you look at a Hall of Fame in American sports, not every player in the Hall of Fame wins a championship, but just about most of them do have a way, or they are impactful in a way that changes the league. It's really, I would agree with Urban here that it would probably just be Leighton Baines and that's it. I would love for Jordan Pickford to be there. I'd love for Tim Howard to be there. Don't necessarily think they would be, but I think there's a case for Pickford. I agree. I think he's, and especially because he's been England's number one as well for basically his whole career with us. I think that probably speaks a lot too. Obviously, it's not what he's done in the but I'm sure he's right up there in appearances. I'm sure he's right up there in clean sheets in terms of, top 20 to 25 goalkeepers in the Premier League history. And he's still got, God forbid, another 5 to 7 years at a very good level. So he will continue to go on and do good things. Yeah, but I sit here and I really think about it. I can't think of another player besides Leighton Baines. Maybe. Well, what was a Russian guy in the 90s? Andrei Kanchelskis. Maybe him, just because he had a bit of a career with United before that. But I don't know if he really played in the Premier League long enough to be good. If you don't, Quinn, by the way, if you don't know who Andrei Kanchelskis is, you need to look up some of his goals because that guy was a monster for us in the 90s. He's just about the only Russian I've seen come to the Premier League and really perform well. Most Eastern Europeans come to the Premier League and they really struggle. There's something about the pace of the game and the adaptation to Western life that really doesn't sit well with him. Mikalenko is a great exception because the guy's fantastic. Oh man, somebody said Rooney. Yeah, Rooney too, but Rooney is going to be for his United work, and I love the guy. He is definitely an Everton fan, but it's not because of Everton, unfortunately.
I would agree.
Which
two
guy?
players are past Leighton Baines. Tough because they both reside on the other side of Liverpool, on the other side of Stanley Park.
Alexander-Arnold from Everton.
Yep. Yeah, he has 58. Andy Robertson has 57, and Leighton Baines has 53. So that's a tough one.
How disappointing. I would be willing to call Alexander-Arnold a defensive player because he can't defend. So, we take a shot. All right. So that's it for the Premier League Hall of Fame. We have a Q&A session where we really just have one question. I know that, Irvin, you asked, do we think we get Phillips? But I think we kind of already talked about that. If you guys have another one, you're welcome to bring us one. But the question that we have from our overlords, who shall remain nameless, what is the best burger, sauce, toppings, etc., and who would be the best obscure Everton player to go to a burger joint with? Quinn, I'm happy to answer first. Look, I'll tell you right now, the best burger is not a big fat patty. It is smash burger. I want those thin patties. I want that flavor and seasoning packed into it. I want to be a little crispy. I want that cheese melted right into it. I'm American. I know my burgers. I know what I'm talking about. Just because I'm not a big guy doesn't mean I don't know how to eat or cook a burger. And as far as toppings go, I don't think you can go wrong with lettuce and onion. I'd like a nice, spicy mustard. I really like Coleman's mustard. I'm big on mayonnaise and like sauteed onions. I said onion already, but I think sauteed onions a little bit better. Maybe some sauteed mushrooms if you're feeling a little fancy. And then cheese, guys, the best burger cheese is American. It's American cheese, and that's it. Nothing tops it. It melts perfectly. The flavor fits well. It's nice and processed, so the plasticky film just settles so well on your palate. It's perfect. And best obscure Everton player to go to a burger joint with, Royston Drenthe. He's not really obscure, but come on, that guy's gonna have so much to talk about. And you know you're going to that burger after you've just been on like a 2-day bender, so that burger's gonna be crazy good. Come on now, Quinn, what you got?
Okay. Well, I'm going thin, 2 thin patties on my burger. You didn't say your burger joint also, because that's where I'm thinking through is like the specific burger I get.
Five guys.
I'm not. Well,
5 guys.
I'm going to this little burger bar called Wimpy's. It's like a little lake town. Like
burgers.
it's called Wimpy's, but just like classic 2 thin patties, no cheese. Yeah, I'm a hamburger person, not a cheeseburger person. So I'd have to disagree with you on American being like the best cheese, because I always think of those Kraft singles and I'm like, that's plastic. That's not real cheese.
That's anyway. The cheese. That's the cheese.
Oh, it ain't it. That ain't it. Anyway, this is my burger. I'm going sauteed onions, pickles, and then ketchup, mustard, mayo. That's it. Simple burger.
3 sauces.
I sure am. It's all right.
Pickles.
Yeah, dude. That's my get out of here. I would throw
some. You get out of here. I'm taking you off
too. I also don't think I don't think my player is necessarily super obscure either, but Apostolos Velios, that's who I want to sit across from me at a burger joint.
Dude, I've got a story about it. Have I told this story yet? Did I tell the story that
here.
No, hold up. No. My first ever Everton match. That was Newcastle away back in 2012. Leighton Baines scores a 45-yard direct free kick. Yelovich scores a winner. No, Anichebe scores a winner in the second half. My experience with that, I'm first of all, I get on a coach in front of Goodison. They don't have my name, but they let me on anyways because I'm an American kid. They're just like, well, whatever, just get him up there. On the coach, get to Newcastle, get let out right in front of the stadium. I don't have a ticket at the time. All of a sudden, some fella taps me on the shoulder, and it's Danny. The first time I've ever met him in person too, and he just recognizes me because we were talking on Twitter and in group chats and WhatsApp and stuff. And he's like, "Are you Forrest?" And I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "We saw you in front of us, like 2 rows in front of us on the coach." And Jed, our mutual friend Jed, was there as well. And so that was a nice little coming together, like very serendipitous moment. And then there have this older guy with him, and he's just kind of looking and smiling. And I am this American kid, so I'm not even thinking about it. I take off my jacket and I've got an Everton shirt on it, and it's got and he like gets really excited and he pulls me over and he's like pointing at my shirt and then asks Danny to take a picture of us together. So we do that, and it turns out this guy is Apostolos Velios' dad, who was over to watch the match. For whatever reason, they stuck him on the Everton, and I got on the Everton official coach thinking I was getting on the Hans Toward coach. If you know Hans Toward, great people. Whatever. I got there. I went to the box office and even bought a ticket. They just sold me a ticket in the box office too. So like whatever. I'm just like the luckiest man alive. But yeah, so I like to think that my picture is sitting on some random Greek mantelpiece right now. But that is my Apostolos story, is that I've met his father before.
I've never heard that story. That's funny.
Danny could tell you it. It's funny as well.
Also, Danny gets so many shout outs on this show.
Yeah, we're going to bring him on soon. Like, you guys need to see him in person if he'll get his butt on here. He's a shy guy sometimes. He doesn't like to really talk outside of his own group.
But he's a very loud one inside the group.
He is, though. Yeah, that's for sure. He's actually really, really instrumental in a lot of fan organizations in terms and what he does for the club. His father, Steve, has written a book cataloging multiple books cataloging former players' experiences at Goodison, current, former Everton players, former opposition players' experiences at Goodison. He's got a massive tattoo on his back, like ongoing tattoo of famous Everton players. So he is Everton through and through in terms of his family, in terms of everything. So yeah. What was the burger joint you go to? What was it?
It was called the Wimpy's.
Wimpy's, that's right. You're Wimpy.
Yeah.
Anyways,
I sure am.
No, you're not. Anyway, so the one question we had from GVL Goals: let Michael Quinn play center forward, yeah or nay? No.
Yeah,
he's got a great finish on him, but it was fun to
Yeah.
see him a couple times this season in desperation. But it's not a viable long-term option if we're thinking.
It's a no from me.
To no. Just get him away from the club. He probably should just go back to Burnley and play in the championship. Bring them back up. Enjoy himself. Just go somewhere where he's going to be given a little more time and patience, wherever that may be.
I know that this is like not Everton related at all, and it might derail us from ending. But I'm really curious on what your take is. Speaking of Burnley, of Vincent Kompany.
Oh.
And him getting the Bayern Munich job. This is off the cuff. Forrest didn't know I was going to ask him this.
No, it's not. I don't begrudge him. I know that a lot has been said about the fact that him and the owners of Burnley got along really well and had this long-term vision for the club. And obviously the statement that Burnley released was very complimentary, very appreciative of everything he did at Burnley, etc. I think it is a weird one to have a manager who just relegated the club go to manage one of the biggest clubs in the world. But I'm seeing it as is an investment in their future. Maybe they've just seen something in the football that company plays and thinks that it will really bring more to their club. And maybe they analyzed Burnley and what he had at Burnley and said, well, he just didn't have the resources. He didn't have the personnel to be able to play the way he really wants to. He's a student of Pep Guardiola. He is a guy who obviously has a lot of upside and a lot of commitment to his job as a manager. It'll be interesting to see how it plays out. I think probably he's a player who, or as a club, they didn't win any trophies this past year. He will have a lot of pressure on him to come and win trophies now, because they're not going to be a club used to going 2 seasons without winning a trophy. I don't know. I think he's a nice enough guy. I hope he does fairly well there. I don't really have a care for German football or German teams, so it doesn't matter to me what he does there. But it is a weird one. It's weird that they would go for a guy like that, but I really do think that German football teams in general tend to be pretty forward-thinking, and they obviously see something in him that's a long-term investment for their future and believe that he can be a catalyst for a revival at Bayern. I don't know. What do you think?
That was a good answer. I thought it was wild. Even when I first saw the links, I was like, what? I don't know of a bigger move of someone going down and then getting a job like that.
Genuinely.
Which was kind of crazy. Yeah, I could see I've seen everything on social media of like the good relationship with Burnley and the club and the owners and whatnot. I thought they really wanted to invest in him. So that's kind of a bummer from the sake of Burnley's ownership and like their plans moving forward, even though they went back down. And just his inability to shift away from the way he wanted to do things this year in the Premier League with Burnley, of like when things weren't going super well, and he just kind of like stuck to his plan instead of maybe pivoting for the sake of safety and getting another year. I will be interested if that is the case in Bayern. Obviously, with tons more resources and way better players and whatnot. I'm really interested. I also think he's a good guy, like from everything that I've seen. So I hope he does well. But it's one of those, I kind of want to keep an eye on it next season. Like, I don't really watch German football either, but I would love to see how he actually does there.
Yeah.
In his first season.
With much better players and actual transfer budgets and stuff, it will be quite interesting to see how he matures as a manager. It's been really cool to see this real wave of young managers kind of come forward, these former players, because it's cool for us to recognize the names and see them as managers. Whereas, maybe an older generation than us is looking at like, oh, Antonio Conte and Walter Mazzari, whatever his name is. I don't know where he manages anymore. And all these other managers who played in the 80s and 90s and are now managers now. The weird one for me is Chelsea hiring Leicester's manager. That for me, that's the weird one. That's like, okay, I get that he just brought them up, but what do you see in this guy that has no Premier League experience that you're thinking he's going to be able to come in and be some catalyst for you? I don't know. That's like, that to me is like, well, it's like, why don't you just stick with Pochettino? Like I understand Pochettino is kind of aged out a bit, and his football is kind of doesn't really work that much anymore in the way the modern game works. I don't know. It's just the way the manager carousel works for these big clubs is so weird to me. It's just, and especially like you're looking at like Thomas Tuchel and stuff, these managers that are just kind of like sticking plasters, and a bunch of these clubs who are just trying to find something that'll work in the short term while they try not to go into crazy debt and absolvency. It's just,
I think that one's weird. I think Vincent Kompany is like a crazy, like that's just crazy. But I think the Chelsea one is just weird.
It's weird. It's weird, and it's kind of like, why would you? I don't get it. What in him did you see? And even like all the links to Kieran McKenna from Ipswich too is like, I mean, guys, like they do not have Premier League experience. What are you expecting them to do? You're bringing them into this very high pressure situation with players that are like super divas sometimes, and expecting them to be able to handle all that right away. Like I agree, Erwin, by the way. I think we're very lucky to have Deitch. I agree. Because we could be in a really bad predicament right now with a bunch of other managers that we could have had. I think it was the best decision that we've made as a club in a while, in terms of our longevity, in terms of us being able to be a club that can perform to eventually get to the level that we need, and for the stability that we really needed, because we just haven't had that stability for so long. Well, that has been a lot. That has been a lot today.
Forrest,
but I do
bring us home.
I do just want to leave us with this, guys. I don't know if you know I play guitar. See how well you can hear this. But here we go. Cool. I'm going to do that every show now until I don't mess up, because when I mess
enjoy
up,
everyone. Enjoy.
It's not as good as my Scouse accent, I'll tell you
that.
Yep. Well, it's been a pleasure. My camera's starting to go fuzzy again, which means, hey, Forrest, get off. So
it is time for bed.
Yeah, we are back next week, Tuesday, Wednesday, probably Tuesday, as long as, wait. No, not Tuesday. There's a Tuesday in a couple weeks where I've got like the bar I work at won the best raw bar in the city, so I have to go to a party for that. But oh gosh, I have to go to this party, the who's who. Excuse me. I'm focused. All right.
We'll see ya when we see ya.
Guys, have a good one. Up the Toffees. We really appreciate all your pinball wizard. I'll learn that one next. We appreciate the banter and the questions and the interactions. We're both pretty tired. It's been a long couple.
Yes, very tired.
We will see you soon. Okay, y'all. Take care. Up the Toffees. And
up the Toffees.
That's all we've got in a bit, lads. All right, up the Toffees.
Ta-ta for now.